Thanks for tuning in to the podcast, God's Not Real. I have Leah Roadrunner here, and we're going to learn a little bit about what she believes. So, Leah,
Hello.
how are you today?
I'm great. It's a fun day.
Good,
Yeah.
good. So, I know you've watched the show a little bit, and the whole thing is about is God real, right?
Right.
So, why don't you tell me a little bit about your background uh,
Okay.
and share what your beliefs are?
I was raised in a family household who didn't at first, the majority of my life, didn't really worry about God or
Mm,
like maybe participate in church or any of those kind of things. I think around my teenage years, my parents we had a form of God, like a belief,
mhm,
but it wasn't like, hey, Easter is this, or like, the
mhm.
holidays were just fun. And then probably around my teenage years, my parents found a Calvary Chapel in the Bay Area
Okay.
and started going there and started attending. And that I would say I still look back, I still write letters with the pastor from that church still.
Nice.
And that's been a little while. We won't say how long. It's been a little while. So that's the foundation for my faith with it was a Calvary Chapel. And Calvary chapels are very like in the word, in the
Okay.
Bible. They go through the Bible. They're very biblical. I would say from there, we all have our moment where we like stray and come back and all of that. I've definitely had those moments. And I've definitely had some moments like as we go deeper into conversation where I've questioned my faith and not really been sure that I had chosen the right thing. And like the evidence down here didn't feel like it matched up with what I thought. But through those different things, I actually have found that by wrestling with it, I wrestled with it because I do believe ultimately, if
Mm,
that's a way to put it. I found that the reason I kept going back to like, well, let me get into the Bible, let me press into prayer was because I truly do believe. So I've definitely walked through some things that have I always say it's like Wolverine. Like that's a weird one, but that's the my analogy is like, when they put the metal in him and like now that's part of him. My
yeah.
faith has been like put in me and it's not going anywhere. Whether or not I struggle with it, fight with it, or whatever, that's okay with him.
Mhm.
It's part of me now. I think maybe that might be answer to your question.
Yeah, that's
Like,
honestly perfect because, like, I can relate a little bit to what you're saying, right? When I was younger, and I mean, pretty young, our family had no identity in Christianity, like our entire family, right? Not
right.
just my mom. And she was a single mom, but like the brothers, the sisters, the mom,
Hmm.
everyone, right?
Yeah.
Nobody had faith. And then, funny enough, I think my mom got her third DUI, right, and got sent to jail or prison, and ended up finding God in jail, and essentially came out, and then she came out with like this passion for God, right,
Hmm.
and wanted to start churches and youth ministries, and she did, like she actually did that,
Wow.
right.
Yeah.
And then growing up, like for me, I don't know, like it was kind of her faith, and I saw like the good
Hmm.
and values and the morals, and like I thought Christians were like really good people. But for me, I never had like a God encounter,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And it didn't really become real for me until I had my own personal like
Yeah.
God encounter.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I can kind of like relate to a lot of what you were saying there. Not that your story is the same, but like just
Those
similarities.
defining moments where you're like, "Oh, no, this is really, really, really what I believe, and I'm not gonna not believe it."
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then like the same thing, like you were saying, like there's been times where I've questioned my own faith.
Yeah.
I mean, like life is a candy canes and rainbows, right? Like let's be honest,
Are you sure?
crap happens,
Yes.
or for lack of a better word, I can say another one, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
there was times where I had to go through and wrestle with God and realize like, do
yeah,
I actually believe in this or am I just,
right,
and
right. I always ask him to, like, when those moments occur, whether they were of my own fault or of something that's happening to me or right,
mm,
or those things, I always say, "Lord, could you let me learn everything I need to learn in this situation? Could you let me remember this moment, so that I don't have to learn this lesson again, or so that when things are going well, I don't forget."
yeah.
Right? Keep me in this awareness of you, because there's been times in my life where I remember a season, where I literally would wake up in the morning and just feel, covered in, like, just kind of probably my own sin or my own, like, "Man, I've been really far from God," and literally would roll over and just get into his word, and it was the only way I was able to get up and lift my head up and, like, keep going every day, and I remember thinking that exact thought, like, "Don't let me forget this when things are going great."
Mm.
Because when things are going great, we can get off path just because we forget how much we need him, you know?
I agree, like, wholeheartedly, like, so my walk has been about 8 years really of my own faith, maybe 9 now, but there's been so many times where, like, I will be in the Word, praying, and really being
Mhm.
active with God, and like life starts going good. Work starts going good, and relationships start going. Everything just starts magically like, oh, okay, it's all great. And then I start getting away from those basics of like reading the Bible and praying all the time and
Right.
doing those things. And then out of nowhere, like I start getting that feeling like, oh, what's going on? Like, why is life sucking a little bit right now? And it's not even that the situation sucked, it's just my
Right.
perception of
Yeah.
it sucked, right? Or maybe the situations did suck. And
Right.
then I realized, hey, if I start getting back to these basics, holy crap, everything
Well,
starts getting
we're so
better.
human. We don't
You
we don't
know?
wanna we don't wanna understand that it's obedience. Obedience brings blessing is
Mhm,
not something we wanna we don't wanna say that. We're like, "Obedience, I'm not a dog. I'm not a"
mhm,
Yeah, but guess what? The Bible, and when you're spending time in it and you're spending time in prayer, I was talking to someone the other day about that scripture that says he'll make all your paths straight.
mhm,
And I was telling him about a time when I was in that part of scripture and I was training for a marathon. And there's a spot on Churn Creek where the sidewalk goes like this. And I'm running and I'm like, man, this is going to make me run a lot further. That's us, right? God's like, hey, yo, I could like make your path straight and you could run to
yeah,
here and it could be sweet and things could be going great. But we're like, everything's fine. Oh, wait, I'm over here. Everything's great. Oh, wait, I haven't stayed the course because
mhm,
he's making things so good. But
mhm,
that obedience and that time with him, like, would just make it a lot straighter.
yeah.
Our humanity doesn't want to be like, oh, if I'd stay obedient, I could stay the course.
I love the word obedient, right? Because it's like just following what it says to do, right?
Yeah.
But even more so, I come to find it's like reliance, right?
Mhm.
I'm supposed to rely on God and not take
Trust him.
authority of everything. I'm supposed to hand it over and give him the authority and then walk what he wants me to
Yeah.
walk, right? And
Yeah.
for me, that's the biggest struggle because, like I said, when life starts going good, I start saying, look at me. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this. And I start forgetting, like, hey, God did it for me,
Right.
not me.
And I think we don't trust him all the time. I think some of it comes down to the trust that every path he's laying is for our good. And he, in no way, that obedience, I think we've turned it to mean something where I have to give up a piece of myself.
Hmm.
He doesn't ask us to do that.
Hmm.
We get to be even more ourselves because
Yeah.
there's so much more freedom in that obedience,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
we untangle ourselves, but we have a thing that's like, oh, somehow that means we turn it into meaning I'm cowering or I'm giving up things or I'm like, and it's not. I
Hmm.
had a friend who was an atheist one time say, "Oh, you Christians have all these rules." And I'm like, "Well, let's dissect that. What do you mean?
Hmm.
The 10 commandments. Let's use those. Great. Those are the most known rules. Every
Yes.
right? Okay. Well, let's look at those line by line. Okay, you shall not put another god above me. Okay. You should respect your mother and father. You should not commit adultery. You shouldn't lie." And as we went through them, I'm like, "Are any of these ones you want to do? Like,
Are
would
they
they be
gonna
good in society?
are they gonna hurt
Are they
people
are they
or
bad?" And
yeah.
then I said further than that, one time in Bible study, we learned that the way those commandments were actually written in the term of those are who I am. So when you read them, you should be saying, I am someone who doesn't lie. I am someone who respects marriage's bounds. I am someone who doesn't lie. I am someone who doesn't covet my neighbor. None of those are none of those seem like harsh rules when
Yeah.
you really take them line by line. And I
Mhm.
think that's what we get caught up in our little humanness of like, well, he's going to put all these rules on me. Really? If he makes you this wonderful person who doesn't do those things to anybody,
Mhm.
where's the where's the bad?
Yeah, I just relate it to every time I've applied anything that the Bible has said in my life, like, I've not hurt people in that way. I've not created roadblocks in my life because of
Mhm.
it. I've not, left people in the dust because of it. Like
Right.
everything that I've applied has always been on the beneficial side, never on the negative side.
Right.
Right. So,
Right.
and I don't think we're supposed to, I mean, I don't think anybody could just follow the Bible's perfectly. Like that's we're sinners, right? We're
Yep.
not born that way. There was only one Jesus, right?
Right.
So there is forgiveness, right? But the more we walk with him, hopefully the more we align with these things.
Yes.
And it's because he's changing us on the inside.
Yeah.
So where that's just who we are, not because that's we're following rules,
Right.
right?
Right. It becomes who we are. Exactly. And I was telling a group of people the other day, I'm like, faith done right can kind of feel like it gets a little harder. But I think that's because the more we walk with Jesus, the more we do start to like follow him, the more we get to look at ourselves and go, wow, what things could I keep working out of me?
Mhm.
And it goes deeper, right? There's like these big easy ones like don't be a liar, don't be a
Yeah.
cheater, don't be a,
Yeah.
thief. Like, okay, I think we all like when we're apart from God, we can walk in some of
Yeah.
that, right? But the closer you get to our heart, now it's like don't hate people,
Hmm.
right? Don't speak bad about
Hmm.
people, which can be easy to fall into. It doesn't feel like this big, huge sin.
Yeah.
It feels like this deeper thing. I had a prayer time earlier this year where I had this vision of like a beach. And have you ever been to one of those beaches in Mexico where they rake it every morning and they make the
Hmm.
resort beach look all
Gorgeous.
good?
Yeah.
Right. And I was thinking, like, Lord, that's so interesting. Like, can we rake my heart and get all the imperfections out? And then I had this moment where I'm like, sometimes when you're raking, you just kind of hit something and then that ends up being this big, deep thing that needs to like come out. And I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, God, we're going to work on some things that are deeper in me. And that gets harder,
Hmm. Hmm.
like there's some parts that are harder where, like, is it a sin not to tithe? Is it a sin not to do certain things? Well, maybe not, but it's hard. And
Hmm.
can we get there and can we do those things that are deeper? How much more Christ like can we become like when we let him work out those imperfections, you know?
And I feel like that's somebody talking from like a really long walk with God, right? Where you said like those easier ones, like don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal. There might have been a time where those weren't
Those
the
were the ones.
easiest ones.
Yeah,
Those were the mountains,
true.
right? That was
Yes.
the mountains. And then as you walk, like that next thing becomes the
Yep.
new mountain. And then 10
Yeah.
years down the road, you look back and those, oh, those were like little things
Yeah.
compared to like what I'm going through right now. And what you're talking about is like a deep, deep, deep walk with God,
Yeah.
really, really trying to become more like Jesus, where,
Yeah.
I mean, we're all on different stages. And I mean, everybody has their own walk, and what looks deep for you is definitely not going to look deep for
Right.
me or vice versa or somebody else. Right. And,
Right.
um, so I really appreciate that you have that long walk, and that's actually why I brought you on the podcast because I see you as somebody living Christianity like or living like Jesus
Trying.
in
Trying. Yeah.
everyday life, right? And it
Yeah.
is always trying.
Yeah.
We're never him. We're never
No.
gonna become him. We're always gonna be imperfect, and we're
Yeah.
always gonna have to find that next rock,
There's a next
right?
rock. Yeah.
And if we don't go searching for that next rock, if you're anything like me, I start taking steps back, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And then I start putting some rocks I already pulled back
Right.
into the beach.
You and I had this conversation, I think I don't know, earlier this year or last year, when I had a shift, and it sounded like you had had almost the same shift
Mhm,
about confession, right? We talk about confession in the Christian faith. And I used to make it about like when I would get to that part in my prayer time, like, okay, what did I do? I shouldn't have said this to that part. I was always trying to find somewhere to like
mhm,
berate myself,
mhm,
you know? And then there was a day when God was like, maybe it's not about me doing this.
mhm,
Maybe it's about me just wanting to transform you more. And where could I be more like you, Lord? Maybe
mhm.
I'm not trying, Leah, to like be your heavenly father that's like, yeah, get
Yeah,
that out. And more like your heavenly father that was like, where else could you walk in freedom?
mhm.
Like, where else could we take a burden off of you, and could you learn to be more like me? And no, I'm not perfect at it, and we're working on a lot of things
Mm.
still.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I promise.
I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
second that motion for me as well, and it will be like that, I think, for the rest of our life,
I I
right? I
hope
mean,
so.
I do too, like, seriously,
Yeah.
and
And if you have a good spiritual mentor, like, they'll tell you that. I
mhm,
think, I have one. I've had her 26 years this year. And, we used to see each other a lot more. She moved to Montana 6 years ago. And that's when I said, hey, every Tuesday morning, I want a phone call with you.
mhm,
And we have it, unless it's like, hey, something's up, but every Tuesday, 8 o'clock,
yeah,
I have an hour set call with her. What I love about my Debbie is that even recently, there was something that happened in life where she goes, I never told you this story. And it was from when she was like 19. And Debbie's in her late 60s.
yeah,
And she's like, I did this at this age.
mhm,
And what's so interesting is when you spend all of this time with someone and then find out something they did when they were young, it doesn't change your picture anymore
Yeah.
because you're like, you're still this
Yeah.
person. And she shared this thing. And I think a good spiritual mentor needs to be transparent.
Yeah.
She didn't need to share it with me earlier. So it wasn't
Yeah.
like she was hiding
Yeah.
something. It just never needed to come up. But they need to be transparent. And also, it made me have a moment where I went, that's so interesting because I would have never thought I was going to hear this story from her. But also, that means I get to live in my identity because I've worked really hard on my identity in Christ.
Mhm.
And yet, there's still a part of me that still goes, oh, but I did this back when I was
Mm,
19 or
yeah.
20 or
Yeah.
21. And it was a moment for me to go, I don't think Debbie thinks she still has to live in that.
Yeah.
I think she's moved on from that.
Mhm.
And so that is the whole goal, right? Is transforming yourself all the time and then allowing shame or any of those things that go with forgiveness, like it has to go with it. And you
Mhm.
get to walk it out,
Yeah.
you know? So I also highly recommend having a spiritual mentor.
I 100% agree. I've, in this 10 years, like I've had actually quite a few different spiritual mentors, like where I get something from this person that I don't get from this person, right? And I get something from this person that I don't get from that. And there's nothing wrong with having one person, right? If you
Oh,
have
and
that
it's fine to
really
have multiple.
healthy
Yeah, 100%.
individual, but it might look different per person, but yeah,
And
having
running
somebody
partners.
to help you
Yeah.
take you where you've never been.
Yeah.
It's like you can walk the path yourself and try to figure it out, or you can get the cheat code and have somebody that has already walked the path tell you, like,
Right.
hey, you might want to duck over here, right?
Yeah.
Because you're
Yeah.
going to hit your head.
Yeah.
Or you can just go hit your head and figure out how to duck on
Right.
your own,
And
right?
pick someone that you admire where they're at. Like,
Yes,
right?
the
So, like, I always
100%.
tell people, don't hire a marriage counselor that is on their 5th, like, that
Or,
makes no sense.
or not married
Right,
ever,
or yeah, or that
like,
too,
you're just
yeah, that's a thing too, right? Yeah, like, pick someone that's, like, where you wanna go
yeah.
and, like, across the board,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? As
Hmm.
much as possible.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's an important thing to pick, but yeah, and also, to your point, I've also been in a prayer group for 7 years with a group of working moms, which there's a whole challenge when it comes to being a Christian working woman.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely and sometimes if I'm honest, I struggle with it. I do believe in a marriage where the man is the head of the household and the woman, it's not like this, it's still like this, is
Yes.
very much where I've come to in my faith. But that is and still can be sometimes in the church an oxymoron. It can be a topic, So for 7 years, I've had this group of girlfriends that we all get together every other week and we're all boss babes or whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
and we pray together. So I think there's the mentors and then there's also like the running
The
partners,
peers.
the peers that
Yeah.
are really important.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do agree with you. I feel like the mentor helps me learn, right? Maybe where I need to walk, but like the peers get me charged to go do the battle, right? Like I'll be with my peers and I'll start talking and we'll start like it's almost like sparks start flying.
Yeah.
And it like gives me this energy to like go maybe walk that path from my
Iron
mentor,
sharpening iron.
and,
Yeah.
and that's I guess how it's played out for me, right? Or
Yeah.
but yeah, 100%. I think both are very important,
Yeah.
and realistically, I mean, the ultimate number one for me has always been creating a relationship with God on my own,
Mhm.
right? Is that prayer time by myself.
Mhm.
Doesn't have to look like, oh God, where art thou?
No.
It's not
Even
some
though my
Shakespeare.
husband's always like, "My wife's such a pretty prayer." I'm like, "But that's not the point."
It's not a
It's
Shakespeare
not.
play
No.
here, right?
No.
It's just talking to him, opening
Yes.
up a door, saying, "I
Yeah.
invite you in my life.
Yeah.
Show me the way to walk."
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I've gotten more out of that than the other relationships, but probably because I've invited him in that. That's why the other relationships have come, and those are the things that has helped me, right? So
Right.
it is in opening the door to that fact
Yeah.
because I want to talk to someone who maybe have never been you know they're 5 years old like me and never had been
Yeah.
introduced to this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Step 1 was just saying, "God, I'm here and I listen, or I'm open to you," right? It
Yeah.
doesn't have to look like anything.
No.
You just say, "God, I
I
accept."
think that's the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
So 2 things to what you're saying, like, So I've read a book twice this year and I bought it for a bunch of people called Praying Like Monks, Living Like Fools. So have you read it
Yes,
too?
it's a great book.
And there's a portion where he talks about we're not showing up to God like, knock, knock, I have these requests. Here's my ornate
Mhm,
thing I'm
mm,
saying. It's more like prayer is this thing where there's this living water. It's always moving. He's always working in our good. And I'm just jumping in and floating and going, I agree with you. Here's my requests. Like, here's what I am dealing with. Here's how I feel, God. And he's like, okay, come along with me for a bit. He's always there waiting for that conversation. We're
mhm,
not surprising him. We're not, like, will you, I'm knocking. Are you going to let me come talk to you about this if I say it well enough? Like,
mhm,
that's not the point. He's always just open and waiting, you
100%.
know? Um, I think the other thing, it's interesting, like you're saying, someone who's like new to all this and how do you, that is such an interesting conversation. I have a family member who recently was like, hey, if someone else in my family is looking into being a Christian and stuff, I think I better know about it and I want to understand about it. It's the first time like I've thought about, oh, if this person has never been raised with any form of like God, even,
Mhm,
how do I go? You can't go like straight to Jesus, like, you
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
And so that conversation and trying to figure out how to have that conversation has been really interesting to me lately. And that's the conversation I feel like you're
mhm,
kind of trying to have,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And I think all of us have come to our faith in a different manner. And I think what you and I are starting with saying here is we see in our lives proof that if I take and practice what I find in the Bible
mhm,
and what I find when I spend time with God, I see proof,
yeah.
right?
It
I
doesn't
see
look like
proof,
any one certain way.
right?
It just happens.
Yeah, and I can show you that, and my life should be something that shows you that, and hopefully it is,
Mhm,
and that should be, something that people are attracted to, and that's why they wanna ask you the question because it
mhm.
should be attractive. It
Yes.
should be good. If we're saying that this God has total good in mind for you, and he has everything good for you, and the only reason he laid out any rules or any ideas was because he was like, "This would be best, and then I could give you my best."
Yeah,
When we're walking that way and it's showing proof, like that in itself is part of the conversation,
100%.
you know?
Yeah.
And I agree with you. My prayer life um, has totally gotten deeper and bigger this year by giving it more time in my quiet time in the morning and kind of, I haven't been perfect about it, but kind of trying to stop in the middle of the day. And I've been keeping more of a prayer journal for the people I'm praying for. And I'm watching as I go back and go, answered, answered, answered. And like
Yeah, yeah.
seeing, his like
It d
that's been
deepens it.
tremendous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause
It
you're like, oh, okay.
it's actually working.
Yeah, exactly. Doing something, and I think we make prayer this big.
Yep.
Like we say, like, "Oh, I'll pray for you." Now I go like, right now, like we're gonna
Yeah.
stop and do it right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But also like, no, I need to really mean it,
Yeah.
and I need to give it its value. I think I'll just pray. No,
Yeah.
actually, there's so many times in Scripture where there's even times where these angels show up and they're like, "I was trying to get here, and I was trying to get through all this to get to you, but prayers actually got me here."
Yeah.
And like you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh man, it's affecting things that I'm
Yeah.
not even seeing
Yeah.
and I'm not giving it the
Mhm.
value that it
Mhm.
really needs." So that's been a change for me this
Yeah.
year.
No, just to share my own conviction, right? Like there was times where I would say, "Oh, I'll pray for you," and then I just get caught up in my day, and then I forget about it
We're all
and
guilty.
everything, and like, so now, like when I say I'm going to pray for someone, at the very least, the second I say that, like I start saying the prayer in my head right then and there
Yeah.
because I'm like, I don't want to I don't wanna dishonor people, like, I don't
Yeah.
wanna and I don't
Lip
wanna lie, and
service.
I like, it's
Yeah.
not because, like, the thing about this is I wanna share this because, like, it's changed my life, like,
Right.
it has changed my life tremendously, like, I can tell you, I was a walking zombie that didn't care about life, and now, like, I live a life of, like, just joy, freedom, and it's not perfect, but, like, here to here it's night and day,
Yeah.
like, and if I can somehow, like, help somebody go from here to even here, like, oh my gosh, like, please let me, I just want to share it with you. It's not like I don't want to jam it down your throat, even though I kind of want to, because I'm like, dude, trust me, if you walk the path,
Yes.
it will be good,
It's like our children where
but
we're like, "Don't touch the stove,"
yeah,
like, really don't touch the stove, but
the
you're like, "Well, I mean, if they okay,"
yep,
but
you gotta learn, I
we
guess.
don't get to ram anything, and that's
Yeah.
not attractive
No,
either,
and
right?
not at all, but, like, to the extent, though, it's like I wanna give it away because it was so good for me, right?
Yeah.
And it changed my life so much. That's why I wanna speak about it. That's why I'm doing a podcast, right? That's why
Yeah,
I'm, passionate about this stuff because I can tell you, like, I you know, I may have been raised in it, but then from 17 to 27, I said, F it all, right? And I partied like a rock star. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I got in jail, I don't know, 10 times. And I definitely lived the other life, right? I got, there's,
yeah,
you know, um, and that's why I know how good it's been because I was so far over here,
yeah,
and now I've walked and gotten over here. Not that I don't I have a long way to go,
yeah,
but, like, holy crap, the life has
yeah,
been just it's different.
and you probably didn't realize I was talking to someone about this yesterday who's having their son's been lying, and then, right, like, the lie went on for a long time, and I said, the thing to convey and the thing that you described, it's like we have these moments where we start switching and we get off over towards the other side. And I think we don't talk about how that turns your heart off and more off and more
Mhm.
off. And you get more desensitized and more desensitized
Yep.
to reality
Yeah.
and to what's good,
Mhm.
right? And what's good doesn't sound good anymore
No.
because you're so far over here
Mhm.
and you're not even seeing like the path it's bringing you down. And I think so many, so it aches my heart. Like
Yeah.
so many start, and I hit my microphone, but so many start down that trail. And I'm like, I don't think you understand how far that's going to pull you
Yeah.
and how far it has the opportunity to pull you.
Mhm.
And that moment when you like have even a moment of like, I should probably pull up out of this. A lot of people are like, ah, and they just keep going that
Yeah.
way. And it desensitizes them to like, to what I think is their image of like the imago Dei in us, right? And
Mhm.
you can turn it off.
Yeah.
You can become so cold that you don't see anymore. And that's why people say, I went here and I still had kind of a moral compass, but then all of a sudden I was willing to do this too. And
Mhm.
it's like, then what?
Mhm.
And then coming back from it's just a lot harder,
Yeah.
a lot harder. And I think too, we're in a world where a lot of people don't even realize they're desensitized.
No, because that's what's accepted in today's society, right?
Yeah.
It's do what you want, live how you want, be who you want, and there's no real, like I think in our society right now, the big push is do whatever the heck you want, and
Right.
everybody else better accept it. And if they don't,
And then
they're
they don't know
terrible.
why they're spiraling. They don't know why they're so
Yeah,
unhappy. They don't know why we're all on antidepressants. They
yeah.
don't know why we're
Because nobody
right.
has identity because nobody
Not that I'm
knows
saying
the
anything's
way
wrong with
they're.
antidepressants,
Yeah,
like a disclaimer, but yeah, they
but I think
don't.
it's why we struggle with identity so much because there's nothing we're living by, right? You
Right.
can't find who your identity or is if there's no structure, there's no,
Real, no truth,
yeah,
no
it's
foundation.
just there's nothing to live by,
Yeah, yeah,
and so you know one thing that I really wanted to have on the show is like I want to hear people's experiences with God, right?
mm,
So I feel like maybe there was a turning point in your life where it became not just the family religion, but like your belief. And is there a certain moment that happened? Maybe an experience with God? I know I can share a couple different ones, but it's not about me. I want to hear about you. And yeah, get the because I fully believe in the spirit. I've had
yeah,
encounters with the spirit where like I can say it and like half the people that don't know, they're gonna be like, yeah, it's kind of crazy, right?
yeah.
But the people that know, they're like, yeah, no, I believe it because
And
I've
some of us
experienced.
can be both. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, well, that's nuts because that's not the way I
Yep.
experienced it. But then I'm like, but then I experienced this, so maybe I shouldn't discount.
Yeah. You were rolling on the floor speaking tongues. Like I don't know if that's as much, but
See, I mean,
but like you know.
we all experience it different, and I've definitely had a couple different stories, where I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm usually not this person, but and it's like, well, now you are that person because
Yeah.
you have a couple of them.
Yeah.
I think for me, I had lived with the Lord, um, but I, like you, also like had moments where I'm like way over here, right? And then you're living for the Lord, and then this back and forth. And I think though the most transformational moment for me probably came. Um, my husband and I, my husband now, Taborka, and I we were pregnant, and I prayed and prayed. I'm like, the desire of my heart, Lord, is that he would be a boy. And we went, and I kid you not, I have 5 kids. It was the only sonogram. Like, my father came, my mom was there, my kids wanted to come out of school. Like, we all wanted another boy in the family. And there was my son on the screen. And we just fell in love. And about 4 days later, his heart stopped.
Mm.
And I was getting close to 6 months pregnant, I think, at that time. And his heart had stopped. And so you have to decide, um, you know, do you want to go? And his name had come to me like 3 days, like in between there, I knew his name. Like, it was a very interesting story. There's a lot of details. But so you have to decide. So we went in and we delivered him.
Mhm.
And there was a few things that happened. So one, the next morning, we're in the hospital and we're getting ready to go home. And my husband is Tara Humar, an Indian, and his dad was deported. Not a good guy. Was deported well decades ago. Well,
Mm.
they barely ever would hear from him.
Yeah.
So we're in the hospital, and he calls his mom, who is an interesting character, and he's like, "Hey, we're going from the hospital. This was just what happened last night." And she says, "Huh, your dad called 2 days ago.
Mm.
He said the Great Spirits told him someone went to be with him, and it was
Mm.
one of his kids. But you guys are all fine." And so I will tell you, Shane, we walked out of that room and went home. And the next few months of my life were probably some of the darkest
Mhm.
in my faith. And that happening also made me go, like, what? Like, why did a great spirit know? He hadn't heard from his dad in all this time.
Yeah.
And I just went into a hole of like, have I based my belief on the wrong thing? Like, why would he give me a desire of my heart
Mhm.
and then take him away?
Yeah.
Why do I have to walk through my children asking, like, where is he? Is he with Jesus? Like, what is, and I didn't know what I thought. And every morning I'd wake up and be like, Lord, just like help me with today. Um, but what I'll tell you and kind of wraps in with some of what we've been saying is as I wrestled, I went up to the prayer house at Bethel Church, which Bethel Church challenges me some, or did at that time.
Mm.
It challenged me because I was like, I'm not a person of like they were how would you describe I mean, like, sorry if I made you cry. How would you describe Bethel Church at that time? They were a lot more like laying their hands on everybody in town. They
Mm.
were a lot more like
Yeah.
kind of outside of I'll be
Yeah.
honest, they were outside of my box in
Mhm.
their faith. And I remember being like, "Mom, and try that."
Mhm.
And I went up and this lady, that's right, this lady prayed over me and she goes, um, she goes, "You were stolen from." And I did. I actually had a dream the night before we out had his heart had stopped the night before. I had a dream someone broke into my room, and I can remember it clear as day, and I don't remember dreams,
Mhm.
and literally stole the baby. And so this lady said, what's been stolen is going to be given back double." And I'll make you laugh. I remember driving home from the prayer room. I remember where I was. I remember going, God, I really still want to believe you're there. However, I don't want 2 more kids. And so like one more would be great. Like
Yeah.
let's try 1 more time. I don't want 2. We
Yeah.
have 4. Like we're okay. And however, so one of my best girlfriends growing up had a son who was born with holes in his heart, holes in his esophagus, um, deaf, blind, all of that a week before we lost our son.
Mhm.
Well, about 3 months later, I call her and I'm like, "We're pregnant again. I'm so scared." And she goes, "I'm pregnant again. I'm so scared."
Mm.
And we were due on the same day. And we both had healthy babies.
It's
And he gave
amazing.
back double, but just I didn't have to have 2. And I always told him, "I'll give you all the glory." And so I give him glory for that. And I think really in all of it, I pressed into the Bible. I pressed into my praying. I went and did things that were outside of my box. I was just trying all these things. And because I just didn't see him and I didn't understand that he was there. And I remember clearly one night, I was out under a full moon and I went, oh my gosh, it's so much more simple than I'm making it.
Mhm.
I don't understand this. I don't understand. And I can't seem to find proof, some kind of proof. I was looking for some sort of proof,
Mhm.
but I believe.
Yeah.
And I need to make it childlike again.
Mhm.
And I just have to tell him, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe you're there. I believe you love me. I believe I have to put this thing on the shelf because I don't understand it. And I do believe in you.
Mm.
And since that night, I have never gone back on my faith,
Yeah.
ever. And I think there's a moment we just have to decide. I have an uncle who's an atheist and has been my whole life. And we just visited him 6 weeks ago in Kentucky. He's been trying to find a church.
Mm.
And he told me, I've finally come to the conclusion that science is a tool and faith is a tool. And they both have their different purposes, but we need them both.
Mhm.
And, I was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
But also, you have to decide to use the tool.
yeah.
There comes a moment where you
No.
can say, the tool's there
Mhm.
and all the things you want to say, and you can look for proof that that's the right tool.
Yeah.
You can look for proof of all these things. And there just comes a moment where you have to say, I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to use it
Mhm.
and I'm going to base my life on it and
Yeah.
I'm not going back.
Yeah.
And like since then I haven't. And that doesn't give anyone proof. But I
Yeah.
think that's the whole point
No.
is everyone has to have their own experience and moment,
Mhm.
you know? So yeah.
Yeah.
That was my biggest one.
Thank you for sharing that. Um, that's a whole whirlwind of emotions, and that's real. Like that's deep, and as you know, I could relate a lot,
Mhm.
right? Me and my wife ended up at 7 months losing our baby, and essentially we had to choose if we were gonna do the birth, and we did the birth, and we went through that, and how you said like that was probably your darkest time in life. Like I know that was my darkest time in
You
life.
can't explain it to anyone.
No,
People don't understand if they haven't walked through it.
no,
Yeah.
and and the crazy thing is, a lot of people do walk through it.
A lot of
A
people.
lot of people and may it not look like that or this, but like losing a baby is not as uncommon as I thought. It's just not talked about, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people
Yes.
hold that in and just deal with it however they deal with it.
Mhm.
And I remember that being a huge struggle with my faith. And so, like, I don't know if that was the time, like, I really said, like, God, I believe you, but I'll tell you, that's the time I decided I'm going to trust God. Like, that's when I learned to trust. I trust that there's nothing I can't, like, nothing could stop me from this trust.
Also, in that I don't wanna go through anything without him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't.
Hmm.
I don't wanna do it without him.
Hmm.
And there's still moments where I'm like, "Hope I got it right." Like,
Yeah.
but this is the way I'm going.
Yeah.
This is where I'm sticking my,
Hmm.
path. Yeah.
No. And that's the thing, like, I've got to closely watch, like, me going through it with him, and I've got to
Yeah.
closely watch, like, maybe somebody not going through it with him, and don't get me wrong, the scar will never go away, like, that just doesn't go away, but there's been a healing that I've been able to walk through that and other people I've seen not be able to walk through, and I think it's just their path is or who they're walking it with was maybe different
Yeah.
than who I walked with, and I just really remember this defining moment, right, where, everybody was always saying honestly, it pissed me the fuck off. I'll just tell you straight out. It really made me mad when I was going through that, right?
Yeah.
And you had those Christians that are like, but you gotta look for the good in it. You gotta look for the gold out of it,
I
and you
know.
gotta look for
I know.
the treasure in it. And in this situation, like any other situation, I was like, okay. But in this situation, when
No.
people told me that, it
No.
just pissed me off.
Yes.
It made me angry,
Yeah.
right? But in all actuality, like, that's where my battle was, is like, "Okay, God, what is the good in this? Like, what the
Right.
hell is the
You
good in
couldn't
this?"
find a
Like,
good.
like and that was this overall battle, and that's what was really, like, at least my fight was, because, like, we were
Mhm.
past the time of prayer, like, "Hey, fix this." Like, we were past the time, we
Mhm.
already went through it,
We always
right?
have this thing in our mind, like he's gonna come through
Yeah,
somehow, gonna
yeah,
fix it,
yep,
gonna tie it up with a bow, and
mhm,
and this you're like,
no.
this doesn't fit."
No, and there was no fixing it at that
Mm-mm.
point, and when people were telling me, like, "Look for the gold," I was so angry, right? And I just remember this one time, right? I'm in AA and have been for many years, and they asked me to speak at, one of the meetings there, and I was just in it was kinda in this time It
Mhm.
was probably about 4 or 5 months down
Oh,
past this, and I was just
and
in
it
this
takes a
time.
longer time than people wanna give it credit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of going through that, but I was, getting out of bed easier. I wasn't wanting
yeah,
to sleep all day, and, like, I wasn't fully in depression. I
yeah.
was getting a little better, but, like, so I'm on my way there, and I'm praying, like, "God, like, what should I say tonight? Like, if I'm gonna share, like, I want this to be you, even though it's AA, like, I really try to invite God into the stuff, right?"
Mhm,
And and I was listening to my worship music, trying to listen to what I feel like God's leading me, and I don't know, like, if it was a I don't think it was a voice. God doesn't speak to me, like, vocally, but there's just, like, an impression of
mhm,
words that
mhm.
I just know that it's not from me, right? It
Right.
just doesn't go away. And I very vividly remember God saying, "You're gonna be able to love your daughter in a way that you could never love your daughter without going through that loss." And at this point, we were actually pregnant. We
Mhm.
just found out we were pregnant, and we didn't know it was my daughter. It was just your child, I guess, in ways that you just
It could
never
have both.
could
Yeah,
without going through that.
yeah,
And and I don't know what that did for me, but somewhere in that,
yeah,
it allowed me to release a lot. And in that also, it allowed me to just trust, an unwavering trust
yeah,
that it's gonna all work out no matter what.
yeah.
Like, it's not always
Good or
good.
bad.
It's not
Good
always
or
good.
bad. I think
Yeah.
too, sometimes I wonder if I've become a naysayer because of that, because sometimes people will be like, "God's gonna heal this," or "God's gonna do that," and I'm like, "And he might not,
And he might not.
and we'll be okay."
Yeah.
I went through a cancer scare a couple weeks ago, and everyone's like, "Oh, we're praying again," and I'm like, "Well, I'll be fine either way."
Yeah.
Like, I just have gotten
Mhm.
there, I
Mhm.
mean, you don't want the bad things to
No,
happen. You don't
obviously
want,
not.
but you're like, but to your point, this is weird that God gave my husband and I massive clarity, or I think it was me. So we were driving home from the hospital the morning after he passed, and I looked at my husband and I'm like, people are going to say really stupid stuff.
Mm,
I think especially Christians.
yeah.
They're going to say like, there'll be another one. They're gonna
Yeah.
say all these things,
Meaning well, but
and they're gonna mean well.
yeah.
And I said, we're gonna have grace.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a lot of grace. And we had to,
Yeah.
And then God also sent people who had gone through it and did understand.
Yeah.
And like those people were was
Yeah.
wild and like so surprising.
Mhm.
And I'm still so grateful for
Mhm.
some of them, And Shane, even though I made that decision to follow the Lord after that, we got pregnant shortly after.
Mhm.
Ava was born. Ava was born a year after Kason.
Mhm.
So it was pretty quick and it
Yeah.
was scary. I
Yeah.
don't know how about you, but
Oh,
it was
the whole
scary
time.
the whole time.
Whole
You're like,
time. I Until
what
the
are we
baby
doing?
was out, I
Well,
I couldn't
for
put
me,
my heart
even
into
after
it.
that, we went somewhere. We went, oh my gosh, my husband will laugh. We went to some speed races after she was born.
Mhm.
And nobody told me like how loud. I didn't quite understand. So we
Mhm.
had headphones on her, but she was a little baby. I remember holding her. And one of them was so loud. And in my head, all I could picture was like it jumping into the and killing her. I got
Mhm.
up and left. And he's
Yeah.
like, "Where'd you go?" And I got up and left. So it's so weird. So fear started after she was born, like
Yeah.
fear started taking hold in like really weird spots of my
Yeah.
life. And I didn't know I was still dealing with
Mhm.
Kason and then being pregnant again and having Ava. And I think I've told you this story maybe. So then we were out at the lake and I couldn't even jump in and swim with my kids. Like I was like, what? I'm not afraid of jumping into the lake.
Yeah.
Fear was just like, where can I get in?
Yeah.
And that's when I signed up for my first triathlon and was like, okay, I'm going to sign up and swim in a lake all the time. And I'm going to swim. And like, so it was, Ava hadn't even turned, I think when she turned 1, I did my first triathlon in Kason's honor. And I did many in his honor for many years after that because fear too will stop you from good things. And
Mhm.
I was like, no, that's not God.
Yeah.
Like that's the enemy. And
Yeah.
so sometimes you got to just hit it right in its damn face. And I'd have panic attacks halfway out into a half-mile swim. My
Yeah.
husband's like, you got to swim. I'm like,
Yeah.
I know, So it's too, it's like,
Yeah.
we know where these things came from. And even after Ava was born, then it was like fear in these other areas because
Yeah.
I think what it all comes down to is I realized Y inside, I thought that's the safest place for a baby, and I couldn't even protect him there. And then
Mm.
you have this child and you feel like you can protect them and you can't. And I think we have a sense of control that we want to have
Oh, yeah.
that's just so not real.
Yeah.
And that trust has to just get bigger and bigger and bigger, especially when you have more children and send them out to the world and all the
Yeah.
things. But that trust has to be no matter what.
Yeah.
I trust you. It's hard.
And it kind of goes to like what you're saying with the whole scare and just different things. Like life's gonna bring about things. I have an expiration date.
Yeah.
I'm gonna die one day. Like there's no
I
way.
freak that freaks
There's
me out.
there's no way around that. You know, like
Yeah.
and it's starting like before it's never like been a thing for me. But
Yeah.
like, you know, like I'm getting back surgery and they're looking at my heart and they're like, hey, we gotta look into this. I'm like, oh, death is a possibility. And like and
Mhm.
but like it's that new time where I get to choose to trust in it or be fearful in it. And there's only the trust or the fear.
It
Like
really is.
it's and the more I learn to lean into the trust, the easier my perspective in life goes. It doesn't mean the life doesn't go bad. It means it goes easier,
Right.
right?
Right.
My perspective is better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not depressed. I'm not angry. I'm not upset. You know, I'm still going through the same stuff. You
But
know,
with somebody. So there's a book called Big Potential, one of my favorite books. And he this the I guess I never even thought about it this way till we're talking about this right now. There's a part where he says scientifically, if I go look at Mount Shasta and go, can I climb that? Yeah, I don't know, right? I'll be like, I'm not
Mhm.
sure. And it's 5,000 feet high. I have no idea how many feet high it is.
Yeah, whatever.
But okay.
Yes.
So then there's a scientific fact. If you put my husband and somebody else strong next to me and like they're next to me and we're looking at this mountain, I'll go, that's only 2,500 feet.
Mhm.
That's fine. We could totally do
We
this.
can do
You feel
this.
that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, we should feel like if Jesus is right next to us,
Mhm.
he's that one.
Yeah.
You could do it.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
There's nothing, even if it's hard,
Yeah.
right? That you can't do.
Mm.
And I will get the glory in it. He gets the glory if the test comes back negative. He gets the glory if it comes back positive. But as long as you walk with him, and we do get frustrated at the people that are like, look for the good. But a lot of times that's because they've been up to the top of the mountain and they know you're gonna see good somewhere.
Yeah.
And so it's frustrating at the
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
and it doesn't sound good at the time. And I make my children crazy because I do that to them.
Yep.
They'll be like, "Mom, da 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 da." I'm like, "Oh, what is God gonna do out of that?"
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh." but,
Yeah.
but like
But it's true.
the quicker we can get there,
Yeah.
the quicker we can get there when something happens,
Mhm.
like the more resilient we'll become and the more we're relying on him.
Yeah.
And I probably needed to hear that today.
Well, like when I said that, it was the thing that pissed me off, and it made me the most like
Yeah.
in that situation.
Like you
Like
find
I'm
something
dealing
good.
with my own
Yeah.
situation, right? But like that thing was the thing that it made me angry.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that thing that made me angry was the thing that grew my faith the most.
It spurred
It
you on.
was it was when I had that moment,
Mhm.
and I felt like God said, "This is the gold," right? And I truly believe I do love my daughter more than I ever could without actually
'Cause your
going through that.
understanding was raised.
Yeah, and the loss,
Yeah.
it just
You understood the value more because
mhm,
of the loss. And
and
that's
I get to pour into that more, I get to
yeah.
be with that more,
Yeah.
I get to value that more
Mhm.
and experience it more
Yeah.
because of that, right?
Right.
And it was in that thing that pissed me off the most was the actually thing that created a trust and a bond with
Which is
God that
so
I
like
could
us.
never,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
Yeah. Like I look back and the places where you get angry, angry is a motivator,
Mhm.
right? Because pain's a motivator,
Yeah.
right? And
Pain
it's
or
like,
love.
man, pain or love,
Yep.
right? And it's like, that's not what I would pick. I think, when you think about the tapestry, like um, from the back, they're doing all this, and you're like, what is that mess? Like, what are we doing? Why do we have to do it this way? What are you doing? And then when you come around the front, you're like, oh, there's this gorgeous picture you're creating.
Mhm.
It's just we can't see it yet,
Yeah.
and it's the longer you walk with him, the more you get to.
Yeah.
And if you give up too soon, you're really missing out.
Yeah.
But it's not easy.
No. If it was, everybody'd do it. you know?
Yeah.
But it is easier. They see, that's the crazy thing is we make it seem so much harder than what it is. It really is just trust and belief,
Mhm.
and like I really think it's trust and belief. If you can just somehow master those two concepts with God, like the rest will figure itself out. But we try to make it this big like mathematical equation that I got to do this and I got to say sorry and I got to work this perfect line and do
Right.
all this and
3
do
Hail
this
Marys
and
and this
you
and
know
that, and
yes
that's
and
not
it's not
it's
that,
relationship. It's
it's
like a
relationship and
yeah,
walking.
it's relationship, and it's like, what do the pastors always say? Like, my pastor tells this story. He's like, "Yeah, in 7th grade, I was at the roller rink." I love this story. And he's like, "And I'm skating next to this girl and was like, 'Will you be my girlfriend?'" He goes, "And then we didn't talk for the entire 7th grade." And I'm like, "Okay, that's people remember that." He goes, "Then in 8th grade, we're sitting at the lunch table and it's the first week of 8th grade and somebody goes, 'Aren't you boyfriend, girlfriend?' And we hadn't talked in a year." And
Yeah.
he's like, "Yeah, I think we better break up, because we don't even know each other." That's God.
Yeah,
You can't be like, "Hey, Jesus, can you like take all my sin and thank you? And can
mm,
you set my path straight and like deuces?"
yeah,
And then a year later be like, "Why aren't we closer? Why don't
yeah,
I understand you more?"
yeah,
Like, wait. And so we make it all these things. But guess what? If you're just in relationship to him, it makes sense and it starts to walk out and you start to just live that way.
mhm,
It doesn't feel like some great big mystery
yeah,
because you're in relationship
mhm,
with him all the time.
yeah,
Right. And so we can't expect anything to work if we don't put into that relationship,
yeah,
if we don't take time for that relationship.
yep,
We
mhm,
do it all the time.
yeah,
I've been guilty,
yes.
but I will tell you the last year or two of being more consistent with my time with him has led to it being much, much easier.
And I think for me, that's the most valuable thing. Like, don't get me wrong, reading the Bible, 100%, you're learning the nature of God, but it's actually been in the relationship and just giving it to Him that He like creates the situations. He brings the right people. And it's like in those times where I'm listening to what he's saying and I say something to this one person and then they're touched and crying and like and it
Mhm.
heals something in me. It's like the more I just do that relationship and I let him guide me, the
Yeah.
faster, like you said, instead of doing the path like this, it's like,
Straight shot.
and I just and the longer I'm with God, the more I don't like the waves, right? My waves start getting smaller because every time I start to wave, I'm like, ah, that
I don't want to go
sucks.
over
I don't
there.
want to do this anymore. So
No,
it like I'll still do it, but I catch myself sooner.
quicker.
And because it the my
Mhm.
there's a guy in AA and he says that his pain tolerance is lower, right? It's
Yeah.
he starts to wave and he can feel the pain and he's like, ah, I don't like this. I
Right.
better start getting back to
Well,
the
and that's back to that
basics,
thing I
you
said
know?
earlier, when you override the pain to
Mhm.
like, "Well, I don't care, I'm gonna do it anyways,"
Yeah,
that's an issue.
yeah.
So, like, when you feel that, so I call that, in music, there's a thing where, like, if I had a guitar right now and I played a chord, if you had a piano sitting across the room, you could go over. If you'd actually feel on top of the piano that the chord inside of the piano is trying to play.
Mhm,
It's resonating with the guitar across the
mhm,
room. And I think that we're like that with God, right? Like the more we tune ourselves towards him, the
mhm.
more his chord is playing. We're like, I want to be in tune with that. I want to
Yeah,
be in tune with that. And as we do that, we can the dissonance of the things that are not in tune,
mhm,
you can feel them more.
mhm.
Now he'll let you go, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go over here.
Oh,
But
yeah.
man, the more in tune we are with him, the better we feel, the better we like everything seems to come into place and work, right?
Mhm.
But
And and a lot of times life does go better. Like it's not like a mathematical equation, like everything's gonna go candy canes and rainbows, but for my experience, like things do start lining up.
mhm,
The situations work themselves out. That time where you're like, I don't know if I'm gonna pay rent this month, and literally it
we
comes in
get
the
to
day
see it.
before. And like we get to see the miracles of God and it becomes so apparent that it is miracles because it
Yeah.
just doesn't work
We get
out
to
that
live in
way, right?
expectation instead of fear, right? And
Yeah.
like expecting good. And there was a time, I think this was 2 years ago. And in our world, in lending and real estate, like things had been on a mountaintop and then they went
Yep.
woo, and
Oh
it was
yeah.
like this big change. And yet my business, and I'm not real good at being like, I'm gonna make 45 I'm not really good at being disciplined in
Yeah.
how the world would
Yeah.
tell me how to do
Yeah.
this business. Okay. But there was a day where I was watching and my business has remained very solid. It didn't stay up here, but it came to here and it was very solid. It
Mhm.
was very good for the last 3 years. I barely dropped in
Mhm.
3 years. And
Mhm.
actually this year I'm above, even though I had a lot of hardships this year.
Yeah.
And so there was a day where I was sitting at my desk and I was like, Lord, there's been people that have done this business for
Yeah.
15, 20 years and they're dropping out.
Yeah.
Like this has been too hard for them.
Yeah.
And I feel really blessed, but what is it? What is it? What did I do? Like what is it that I get to still be here? And this was the funniest answer. So when I was a single mom in between my first marriage and my second, I picked up doing cleaning dental offices. And I cleaned one office in particular for 20 years,
Mm.
every weekend. I
Yeah.
think I took one weekend off in
That's crazy.
20 years. And I scrubbed a lot of toilets,
Yeah.
a lot of toilets. And I did clean other offices. At one point I had a dental office. I had oral surgeon, two heart doctors because I kept my home through
Yeah.
my marriage so
Yeah.
that I could keep my home for my kids. So I did whatever it took. But this one office is for a family here in town that I just love. And I'd go in and I'd pray over them and I'd pray over their boys. And I remember always being like, thank you for this job, Lord.
Mm.
Like I know some would be like, I don't want to scrub toilets
Yeah.
every weekend, but thank you for the provision to keep my kids in their house. Thank you for the provision through everything. And I only a year before had given up that job because I had a coach go, you do what on the weekend?
Yeah.
What are you making this year?
Yeah.
Like you need, and what he said to me was, you need to let that be someone else's blessing. And
Yeah.
that's when I finally went, oh,
Yeah.
but I'm sitting here. Why is my business still doing okay? And God goes, I'm showing you what it looks like to reap. You sowed
Mm.
for years,
Yeah.
and it doesn't always look like what you think, Leah.
Yeah.
You think you have to sow in making calls and doing sales and sow in this way. You sowed in prayer and in blessing and in being grateful, even in scrubbing toilets.
Mhm.
And I'm going to let you reap in holding your business steady.
Mm.
And I think like we in this world of ours try to equate so much, well, if you do this, then this.
Yeah.
And
Tit for
God's like,
tat.
my economy
Yeah. It
is
doesn't work
not
like that.
that, but it took trust, right?
Mhm.
Like I trusted him through all those years. Like I'm gonna do my part and he's gonna show up. And it was such a big thing to me to be like, he clearly showed that to me. Like you're reaping, but because you sowed
Mhm.
in prayer and obedience,
Mhm.
you know? And so it doesn't look like what we think
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah.
but trusting him is will show up in ways and bless us in ways. And you know, you talked about you going off and coming back. And I mean, that's biblical.
Yeah.
You know, the word talks about raise your children up the way you should.
Yeah.
And I haven't been there's been times where I've been better at it than others, you know, and but God says like when you go back, they'll come back.
Yeah.
And you came back. And I
Mhm.
think actually I always look at it, some people are like, you know, I look at that as like he told us that's gonna happen. So, okay, that's happening now. We're just gonna trust and stay over here and wait, and it'll be back, you know, and that's gonna happen because, like, your daughter's young, but I've got 5 that are 28 down to 17, and I've been walking through all the things.
Yeah.
And I think too, one of the reasons I hope one of the reasons I'm here doing this interview with you is I've learned very much as Christians, I think we get misunderstood a lot, and I've even had my own children misunderstand,
Yeah.
um, what love is like, what they think God, when he's like a righteous God, they think he's angry or they
Yeah.
think he's, you know, and then in turn that gets transposed to us.
Yeah.
You know, I've had the moments where my kids are like, I'm going to move out with my boyfriend. Like, are you going to visit us? Because we know you don't agree.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to do
Yeah.
this, mom. Are you still going to, man, like, then I've somewhere not given this to you guys right because God is this holy God,
Yeah.
but he also wholly loves us
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
It's not that he is like, you can't come near me. He's
Yeah.
more like, oh man, what can I do to have you come
Yeah.
near me? And that's
Yeah.
why he sent his
You're
son,
hurting
right?
yourself. I'm here.
Right. And
You
it's
know.
like, I as a believer, yeah, I'm still gonna come love you. Now, I do have a hard time sometimes with where are boundaries versus love versus like none of it should feel judgmental.
Yeah.
What it should feel like is like, I love you and I have a standard that
Yeah.
would make your life better.
Yeah.
But if that's not where you're at, I'm gonna love you where you
Yeah.
are. And I think a lot of that gets so mixed up in this world.
Yeah.
And it's hard,
Yeah.
you know?
It's a two-way battle, right? Because it's like For one, you got to live by something. If we are being
Yes.
with Jesus, right, and we are listening to that, like there is some things that are like we realize, hey, this is like really bad, right? This
Yeah.
is not like good.
Right.
But then also, like, we're called to love those people that are in those areas, right? Like,
Yeah.
Jesus went for the people that were, like, really in the bad areas, right? Like,
Yes.
that's where he went. He didn't
Thank
go to
God.
the people that were all healthy and good. Like, he
Look at
went and
David.
found,
He's
like
like a man after God's own
yeah,
heart. That guy was that guy
yeah,
in his moments,
yeah. I
like,
relate to David a lot,
you're
you
very
know?
much so. I'm like, thank you, God, that that's who you
Yeah.
wrote the story about,
Yes. Yeah.
right? Yeah. So God basically told me, you're reaping what you've sowed. And I think a lot of times we try to make this equate that, and God's economy is different than our economy. And sometimes, like when you're sowing into something, you don't know what you're gonna reap from that. And that was just a lesson. It was a big lesson for me. It was very humbling. Because I think I always try to equate exactly what I should do to get exactly the results. But
Mhm.
God has a bigger intention sometimes, and we just need to trust Him.
Yeah, and I see it just like I think it's I wanna see stuff play out like this because I did this, right? And this should equal this, right? But it and the longer I walk with God, the more I realize, like, it doesn't it's just not 1 plus 1 equals 2. It's
Mm.
1 divided by 3 times through to the power of 10, and then all of a sudden, you're
Ta-da!
like, "Oh, okay, I don't know how that worked, but that's why it's God. That's why it has to be God because it
Right,
doesn't work like that in normal
right.
society. It's not 1 plus 1,
His timing is
it's
not our timing, and,
ex
like, we're so impatient, right? When he's like, "Sometimes it might take longer," and
yeah,
I have a painting in my prayer room that's of the star coming for to show Jesus' birth, and this guy's, out in the field, the shepherd, and he's like, "Oh my gosh." And I'm like, they waited like 2,000 years. And like sometimes I get impatient when I have to wait a week,
yeah, oh, yeah,
but his timing's perfect, and how he weaves it together is perfect. And just like Jesus was so misunderstood too, right? He came as a baby instead of this like conquering king, and like we just equate it in such earthly ways. And
yeah,
God's got a bigger plan.
I agree, I agree. Well, I know we could talk forever.
Yeah.
It's really easy to talk for you, but why don't you share any final thoughts, anything that you would like to share with the viewers, something that's important to you or just that you feel is really deep in your own heart?
Yeah. I think something that would be timely, and that I think is something that I have tried to teach to my children. And sometimes, even as close as we are, they've misunderstood it. Or I just think the world is misunderstanding right now that um, our faith is loving. Um, and what loving looks like, we can equate differently sometimes. Loving does look like obedience, it does look like a straight path, it does look like, um, knowing that if we follow Him, it'll be easier because He's beside us, but we've still got mountains to climb. And it doesn't look like judgment of anyone, because I don't think um, I could be where I am without the fact that He didn't judge me,
Yeah,
right? And the fact that I'm my own worst judge a lot of times, and He keeps trying to take that off of me. Leah, give yourself grace. Leah, give yourself forgiveness. Give yourself, all those things so that you can keep walking. And I think that, man, I just hope people would know I would never heap judgment or those things on them and weigh them down from being able to see His love.
yeah,
And I think that we get that really confused, and we throw stones from these different sides. And if you're doing Jesus right, if you're doing it right, that love won't feel like judgment. It
yeah,
won't feel like hatred. And one of the fruits of the spirit is kindness. It'll feel kind,
yeah.
And I think we get it wrong when we think He's an angry father or not someone we can approach, because man, He's just waiting for you to approach Him.
Mhm.
So if I could say there's anything the most important for people to hear right now, it would be that. And it's misconstrued and misunderstood a lot, even in our own households. So the more we can walk in a attractive manner, in a way that's humble and loving and not wanting to put that on anybody, the better we're doing.
Yeah, I really like that, and so, like when I told you I had those 9 years, I really went off the beaten path, like, I did,
Mhm.
sin was my life. There's no way around it, that was my life, and how you said, like, God had grace for me, right?
Mhm.
He still chose me, and it allows me to realize, like, I don't care what you've done, because if he picked me
Mm.
and somehow said I'm loved, trust me, you're
You're
loved.
loved.
There's no way around it, like,
Right.
and that, and we are called to call people up, but it's in the love
Yeah.
is how we do it. It's not in the judgment. It's not in the you're going to hell. It's not in the
No
I'm
shame.
not. No,
No. Yeah.
it's the same way as me as a father would tell to my daughter, the stove is hot. Don't touch your hand on the stove because you're going to burn it.
Right.
I'm not telling you that because don't want you to mess with the stove. I'm not telling you that because I'm trying to keep something from you or make it to where you can't have fun or, I'm not
Yeah. I
telling
actually
you
want you
that.
to have more fun
Yes,
and be
I
more
want
free.
your hand to
Yeah.
stay healthy and
Yeah.
not burnt and
Yeah.
not hurt. And I'm telling you this because I love you, not because I'm trying to keep something away from you. And so there is that weird balance as Christians that we are supposed to call people up, but it's in the spirit on how we do it, I think is where the change is. And I know, like, for our viewers and just different people, like, I've seen it done really freaking bad, You see those people on LA, "You're going to hell if you're gay," or "You're blah, blah, blah." It's like, dude, you don't understand the Bible. Like, you don't understand God. You don't understand his love, because if you think that's who he is, maybe I just know a different God. I don't know,
No, I think
And
more often what I try to explain it is he's like brokenhearted.
yeah,
He's brokenhearted that we're not with him. It's like you're a parent now. When my kids do things that I'm like, "Oh, no," it's more than I'm like, "Oh, man, like, I want good for you. I
yeah,
know what would be easier for
yeah,
you. I know what would be better for you, and, oh, I'm so sad, but I'm
yeah.
not angry. I
I'm not
don't
mad at
hate you.
you.
I'm not
Yeah,
mad at you. I don't
yeah,
judge you. Gosh, I love you.
yeah.
I wish we could figure this out." And I think that's how he looks at us. Dear God, I hope so.
I hope so too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I love it. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really, really do appreciate you
it's been fun.
and sharing it. And well, thanks for watching. The podcast Is God Real? And I hope you guys heard something that you can take for yourself. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Bye.